Okay, hey, this is Jason with RPC Electronics again, and this is lesson 7 of the Eagle tutorial. Before we jump back into placing parts on the board, as you can see, this is how we left it in lesson 6, at the end of lesson 6. One of the tools I'd like to show you real quick is handy whenever you're trying to lay the board out and you're not sure what's connected to what. Maybe you have just a real maze of air wires. That's these yellow lines here. There is an easy way of identifying them visually, and this will, and by demonstrating this, I'll give it a chance to show you something. In lesson 6, I'd said something along the lines of the power connector was connected to the left pin of the voltage regulator, and that is true. The only difference, the only thing that I left, there's a caveat there. We have a diode, a protection diode, that was in between these two, and you can actually see the air wire here jumping from this pad all the way over to this diode. But if you weren't sure, there is a way. Back on the schematic editor, there's a tool up here called the show tool, and you see this eyeball. If I click on that, I can now click on any specific part or wire on the schematic, and that's going to cause it to actually highlight on the board. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click and highlight diode, or D1, the diode, and you can see that it changed slight color, and the D1 turns dark black. If I flip over, now you can see that D1 is a little brighter than the rest of the parts, and so that's showing that this part is the part that I have highlighted on the schematic. Now, let's say I want to make this trace show up, this connection between the connector and the diode. I just clicked on that to highlight it, and there, now we can see that this pad and this pad are now brighter, and you can see the air wire is a little brighter yellow, and that's indicating that particular connection. So that's a very useful tool, especially when you get into very complicated schematics with multiple similar parts. For example, let's say you're working on something that has maybe 20 or 30 capacitors that are all the same, and you're trying to locate it real easily. You can easily click on it with the show tool, and boom, there it is. You can see it on the board view. So let's first thing we'll do is we'll unclick, or we'll unselect the show tool, and let's go back to our board. Now, what we're going to do first is go ahead and grab this diode, and if you remember in the previous lesson, I showed you how to force this to snap to the grid. We'll do that by holding our control key and clicking to grab the part, and it instantly snaps to the grid. Now we're going to take this diode and we're going to go ahead and place it in here. So this is a pretty good place for it right here. So we'll just put it right there. Now we have some filtering, or sometimes they're called decoupling caps. I prefer these filtering caps since we're dealing with the power supply. So we'll go ahead and we'll do our control. We're always going to use our control click function for every first movement of a part, so we know that it's snapped to the grid. And we're going to go ahead and place that at the regulator. That particular one is connected to the input, and this one's connected to the output. And actually, you have a couple of choices here when it comes to board layout. Some people will take caps like this and they will mount them like this, or place them like this, so that the similar grounds or connected grounds are facing away, and that you have the shortest possible route between the two pads. I like to do it like that, or my other option that I like to use is I will actually flip these so that the grounds for the caps are facing each other, and we still have a fairly short trace to go from the regulator to the cap. But one thing that we'll see here when we use another tool is we're going to see that these two pads will also connect to this center pad, which is also ground. These are ground, and this is ground. And you'll see here in a little bit that it's real easy to shorten that all up. Okay, we're real close to getting everything placed here, so let's go ahead and continue placing parts. This particular part is controlling power from the power jack through the diode to the regulator. And in this case, we'd want this button to be easily accessible, so we'll go ahead and place that down here too close to the edge of the board. And we'll grab our LED, and we'll go ahead and place that. We'll probably go center again at 25 millimeters right there at the edge. And same thing with the current limiting resistor. And we'll go ahead and put that in, and we'll space it out a little bit. Go ahead and put that in right about there. So, okay, I'm going to size that back up, and we can see that all of our parts are pretty much strategically placed. One of the things we might want to do is adjust this, the placement of this jack, and that's real easy to do. As you can see, we're on the 1 millimeter grid, so every time I move it, it's going to snap 1 millimeter each time. In this case, I think a ½ millimeter would do the trick to keep this on the edge without hanging over. So we're going to go up here to our grid, and we can see right now we've got 1 millimeter selected, so we're going to change that to 0.5 or a ½ millimeter. When I do that, you can see the grid just changed to indicate that. And since we're still snapped to the 1 millimeter grid, it still fits the ½ millimeter because all we did was cut the grid in half, the grid rate. So we're going to take it and we're going to grab our part, and we're just going to move it a ½ millimeter, and now you can see that we're lined up nice and even with the edge of the board. I'm going to also do the same thing with the diode. I'm going to move it just, we'll move it 1 notch there just to kind of space it. And let's see, this regulator, we can leave that where it's at. We'll leave these caps where they are as well. Okay, I'll go ahead and stop the lesson here, and in the next lesson we're gonna go over some tweaking of these air wires, and then we're gonna start doing some actual routing. So we'll see you on lesson 8.